see how we can best help our customers, because everybody was going through this. We were going through this in our office. Our customers were going through it in their offices, whether it was a dance studio, manufacturing, multi-story building. Everybody was going through it.
This is Evelyn Tavernier, the president of Express Commercial Cleaning, Inc. Alongside her mother and husband, she founded the company in 2008. They specialize in commercial janitorial services and hold Texas Certified Hub and MBE, WBE registrations with the city of Austin. With 8 consecutive years on the Austin Business Journal's Women-Owned Businesses and Ethnic Minority-Owned Businesses lists, Evelyn is a dedicated and accomplished leader. Her journey from Guatemala City to the United States taught her the values of hard work and perseverance, which she applies to her business and hopes to instill in her children. Through her entrepreneurial spirit, Evelyn continues to drive the success of Express Commercial Cleaning.
Welcome back to another Money Monday. We got Evelyn here from Express Cleaning. I appreciate you joining us, Evelyn. She should be able to provide a lot of value for you guys in her cleaning business, how she got started up, and her journey along the way. So please, Evelyn, tell them who you are, what you got going on your side of things, and how you got started up into it.
Yep. So Evelyn Tavernier, Express Commercial Cleaning. We actually, funny enough, just celebrated our 15th year in business in April. So pretty excited about as far as what we've got going on. Gosh, right now, let's see, we're about a year into an acquisition that we did last year. So we're now at about 105, 110 employees. And, still trying to get used to, I would say, the new customers, the new employees, trying to mesh those two cultures as best as we can, I think is what we're actively trying to do. And then all the while trying to grow the company, right? So it's an interesting time for sure. It's challenging but fun.
Definitely. Yeah, so it sounds like you've been growing pretty exponentially there. You've made it over 100, people you have under you, and you're managing and having to train them and make sure they're all doing the right things. It sounds like that's a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
Okay, but I bet you didn't start with 100 people. So I guess originally when you were getting started up, was it just you? You were having to go to all the properties and clean them, or how did you actually get started up into the industry?
Yeah. So initially, it was just myself, my husband, my mom, and
the family.
Yeah. Just started off with family cleaners, and we had researched different industries, and we were looking for, this was back in 2008, so we were really kind of at a challenging time. It's funny, you can find a lot of similarities between what the industry is doing now and what things were like back in 2008. A little bit of similar situation. Of course, we hadn't just gone through a pandemic then, so this is the only thing that's making it different, I feel. But yeah, so we were researching at the time what industries are economic proof, which ones are pretty safe to go into. And I think we kept coming back to cleaning. And so the idea of cleaning kind of struck me a little bit. I found it pretty neat and pretty interesting. My mom is a housekeeper and had been for many, many years at that point. Matter of fact, she still has some customers that she's been cleaning their house probably, gone on 30, 35 years, if not a little bit longer. But so I found that to be kind of neat, right? An interesting thought of going into a similar industry that your parents are in, or that you grew up having them in, was just kind of a neat idea. So we started honing down a little bit more on cleaning. And we looked at the difference between commercial cleaning, residential cleaning. Of course, cleaning is just like the tip of an iceberg, right? There's so many layers of cleaning. There's so many niches within the cleaning industry. And so we looked at those two, and we thought, okay, residential, commercial, comparing the two, and it just seemed like a natural progression to go into commercial cleaning because, number one, there's contracts in place, right? You're trusted with the keys. The customer knows when you're expected. They know what time you're going to be there. So it just seemed like a really good fit. And then plus two, my background is accounting, so business administration. I like the idea personally of having contracts in place, right? So that's kind of where we went into. That's not what you end up, not the typical service that you start off going into when you start a cleaning business. It's like all of a sudden everyone knows that you do cleaning, and so you get offered everything. And so that was kind of neat to be kind of offered everything. And as you're starting out a new business, you want that business, right? So you start tackling everything. And so, we were looking at houses, we were cleaning houses, apartments, we were doing pretty much anything. If it involved cleaning, we'd say yes. And so over time, we realized, okay, what is our true niche? What are we truly good at? And so we kind of honed it down and said, well, commercial is in the name of the company. Why don't we just stick to commercial cleaning? And so that kind of light bulb, I think, went off in our minds, and we decided, let's just pursue commercial. Let's just, and there's nothing absolutely wrong. I want to make sure that that's clear. There's nothing wrong with residential cleaning, but for our goals and our vision, we knew that the path that we wanted to go to was through the commercial route.
Yeah, and I think that's an important piece right there, that you guys had a clear vision or clear goals of what you were looking to do, and you knew, I guess, what a good fit for you would look like. And it reminds me a lot of the real estate industry, and the fact that you mentioned the 2008 comparison as well. But it's like when you get into real estate, it's like it's such a big industry there. You're like, okay, where do I start? You want to do everything. You're like, okay, I want to do commercial, residential, wholesale, invest, flip, whatever it may be. And you kind of have to hone in on one specific piece and then kind of grow from there on things. Okay, this will fit what we're looking for, fit our goals, our journey, what we're looking to do. So it's very comparable in that route. It's difficult when you first get into an industry. It can be overwhelming. It's just like, oh, there's so much that they need from me almost. It's like, so it's good that you were able to narrow in on that. And was it challenging at first? Because I feel like, just like real estate, a lot of people start in residential and then will try to go to commercial because that's the, I guess, obvious kind of growth there. So, I mean, was it challenging for you just to start in the commercial side of things and not do the residential side first and not get that experience?
I definitely feel like we stumbled a little bit at first, only because you want to go after this vertical, whether it's commercial, residential, and even within commercial, there's so many pockets that you can go into that you start realizing, okay, what am I really good at? What am I not good at? Which ones can we kind of eliminate because they require specific times to clean, or they require a specific type of person that is able to clean. And then, you realize that, okay, that's a little bit more challenging to find. I would say like the very early cleaning, like the overnight cleaning, I think is still a little bit challenging at times. And yeah, you've got to find a very specific, there's not a lot of what I would call night owls out there, right? So that pool for us to search for employees that want to clean at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, it's a very small pocket. So we've got to be very specific about if we do go into that type of a service field, that we know that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. So that's something that we have to consider as well.
Definitely. Okay. Yeah. And it sounds like, I mean, ultimately, you guys kind of got your flow pretty quickly and you guys got the hang of it. But that was, I guess, going to be my next question. At what point did you figure, okay, I'm going to start hiring people? Because it sounds like, I mean, if for whatever reason you had that thought of, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. And then you were like, okay, you figured out where your niche was going to be, which I like that you kind of got it from your family. It's like you grew up around it or whatever, and then you realized you liked it as you were growing up and you could utilize it in further in your life. I really like that. But yeah, at what point did you realize, okay, this is like too much for me. I got to start hiring people? Because I mean, in commercial, that seems like it could overnight type thing.
Kind of grow really quickly. I think, I want to say early on. Now, remember, the one thing you've got to remember is that when we started the company, we still had full-time jobs. I had a full-time job. My husband had a full-time job. So really, when we started the company, it was, with the understanding that, well, we don't have the availability to just jump in all the way. So we knew we had to have jobs to pay our bills. And so I think the turning point, I want to say, was right at the end of the second year. I remember we got a contract that was big enough that allowed us to hire my husband, Dan, full-time. And then it's an interesting process. The way that all works is really quickly after we hired him, it's like contracts started coming in. Within 3 months, I want to say, we were able to hire me full-time just because we had built up enough contracts and realized, okay, now we can quit our full-time jobs. And then it happened just so fast. I think right within that same 3-month mark, we realized, okay, even now that we've quit our jobs, now that, Dan, Evelyn, my mom are doing the work together, this is still a lot of work. This is still a lot of contracts, a lot of buildings, a lot of customers to work with. So we decided that it would be best to have employees we pretty much drew a line in the sand, right? We said, okay, after this last contract that just came in that we know Dan's going to have to clean or Evelyn's going to have to clean, we have to hire for the next contract and the one after that and the one after that. And so that's kind of how it started, just realizing that, okay, this is a lot of work, a lot of buildings. Then the time span too, with commercial, there's some industries that they require the cleaning during the day. There's some that require it at night, on weekends. And so we had to be super flexible with that. And then just outside of the fact that we ourselves didn't want to get burned, you can satisfy these customers, but it's unscalable. It's not a solution that you can go from, 10 clients to 50 really quickly and still continue serving them and serving them well. We didn't want that to happen to where we couldn't serve them really well. So we added on additional employees, and then from then on we kind of said, okay, this is a model that works. So we can adopt this we hire for the contract.
Okay, I got you. So it was more or less just based around the scaling aspect of things, which I definitely want to get more into, but I want to take a step back here because I'm definitely intrigued to learn more about, I guess, that 2-year process that you guys were working full-time jobs as well as, I guess, trying to start a business. Because to be honest, that's, I think, the biggest obstacle people and biggest hurdle people struggle to get over. It's like, okay, how do I start a business when I have a family I got to take care of, and then I also have a 9-to-5 that needs my attention? There's only 24 hours in a day. How do I make that work? And I was, because I started a bit younger, I'm blessed where I didn't have that obstacle to jump over, but that's why I wanted to start so young, because as you get older, you have more and more obstacles that come. So not to say, because it's not impossible. People can do it at whatever age. You see people doing it even with families and 9-to-5 jobs. So I'd love to hear more about that, of like how you were able to make that work.
Yeah, I think 100%. I couldn't, we couldn't have grown to the point where we grew, taking those vital steps that we needed to take without the support of our family. Absolutely. I would say without a doubt, it was relying on grandma to watch our kids. That was the other thing too. We had babies at the time. And so it was, we need to get out at 7:00 to go clean the building. Okay, let's see if grandma is free. Let's see if, literally we would take turns and say, is your mom available? Is my mom available? We relied on, siblings and whoever we could that was in the family that could support us through all of this. So yeah, when I think about like challenging times and the growth that we've been able to have, that's who I think about too. I think about obviously our employees, our customers that allowed for that growth to happen, but the support that we needed to have that growth, or that initial growth, was family. After 100%, it was family.
I like that. Yeah. So was it, I guess, do you think that's what, motivated you or pushed you through? Is that like, I guess, the reason you were able to build so much or put so much time into it when you were, I guess, able to get away from your 9-to-5? You weren't able to, I guess, take that for granted. You used it for value, because, a lot of times, if people don't always have a 9-to-5 job, and myself, I didn't have I mean, there was a point where I was kind of working 2 jobs, but not as, I would say, 2 years. So I always try to make sure I don't take my time for granted, because time's, you know, the most valuable asset we have. So
You never get it back.
yeah, never get it back. See, do you think that propelled you through? Is that like your reason why, or how did that 2 years like go through, and how did that actually flourish so you could make sure you didn't have to work that 9 to 5 job?
I think there was a couple of different reasons. It seemed the more and more we did it, as physically demanding as it was, there was something very, very motivational about getting a yes to a contract and continuing. No, and I'll even say that getting a no was, you know, not something that you want to hear, but, you know, I just kept reminding myself that, okay, this is not the one for us right now. At this time, it's a no for them, but it's an opportunity to call them in 6 months, call them in 3 months, to figure out a way to get my foot in the door so we can get our shot, get our opportunity. And I think for me, that was one of the things that I'm, even to this day, I think I'm really passionate about, is meeting someone new and building that relationship that could, if I'm doing everything right, and if I've got their interests at heart and making decisions or providing them with value, even if they're not a customer, down the road there might be a need. So I think that just kind of kept me motivated, kept me going. You know, I would share that with my husband as well. Hey, it was a no for this account, but I'm gonna call them in 3 months and see where they're at.
I'm circling back. From a sales aspect, I love that, because I can 100% relate to, you fall in love with the yeses because of all the no's you get. It makes that yes 100 times better.
Exactly. And how great that makes you feel once you do get it, and it gives you enough energy to go from to get you through possibly the next 10 no's that you might get after getting that one yes.
Yeah, it feels good because you have to work for it. Things that come easy, you know, they don't feel as good.
Yeah.
So walk us through the process, I guess, of getting your first contract, and then how you went about getting the contracts after that, because it sounds like it got easier after the first one. But I mean, what was the process of getting that first one? Because that's always the hardest battle, right?
Yeah, it was just, 15 years. I'm trying to go back to what we were doing 15 years, where we were brand new, getting our cards, business cards, getting our website put together, getting everything in line.
Bringing you back
To truly be in business, right? So we did all of that. And then it's interesting, because we said at one point, very early on, we said if we ever had to get part-time jobs because we didn't have enough contracts in, or because we just weren't, you know, making the numbers, that before we had to get part-time jobs for supplemental income, we would just quit. And so I'm super thankful that I didn't get to that. I'm super thankful that things just started picking up steam and they started moving in the right direction, because I felt like it would have been so easy for us to get discouraged and to say, oh man, we've got 2 months where we haven't had anything, or we didn't land a contract this month. And so I'm glad that we just had that grit, you know, that stick to it. Because it would have been very easy. And then we had that conversation early on, and we said, okay, things don't go well, and we realize that we're not making ends meet, and we've got to get jobs, well, then maybe this is not for us.
Yeah, and that's important, because they're the hard conversations you have to have with yourself, with your spouse, with your business partner, whoever it may be that you're in business with. You guys got to make sure you're on the same page and you have those hard conversations, because, I mean, as much as you don't want to put that into reality, I mean, that's the possibility, and it's the real possibility. Things might not go your way if you don't work hard enough, or whatever may happen. So you have to keep it real, and I think that's important that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, not to keep bringing you back though, but yeah, so I guess was it different, or was it more difficult after a period of time? Because you mentioned, I guess 2008 was similar to 2020. So I guess like there was a high demand for cleaning at that time, I'm assuming. Was it more difficult at a period? Because I mean, we've realized in our market in real estate, like we were flourishing during COVID in 2020, but then we did have those months where it was 2 months without a contract or something. And you're right, it is easy to get discouraged. Did you have those portions where it was more difficult since you got into like, I guess, more of an up market?
Yeah, the business cycles, they change and they vary depending on the market, right? Depending on what's going on in your business, depending on the different levels that you reach. Every level is going to have a different challenge. And I tell my husband now, I don't know. Some days I don't know what was more challenging, the physical aspects of doing a lot of the cleaning, or today. Like today is the mental challenge can be pretty daunting sometimes, especially when you're supporting a business of 105 employees, and then the weight of knowing that it's not just 105 employees, it's 105 employees plus all of their kids and all their families, and that's that could take a toll on your shoulders. So some days I feel like this is more challenging, but then some days I also feel like when we were doing a lot of cleaning, there were some days early on that we were cleaning 12 hours a day, each of us, my husband and I. And so, yeah, it's, depending on the day, some days I feel like we're really challenging here at the office. And then some days I feel like, no, the cleaning, doing the physical aspects of the cleaning was definitely a lot more challenging. But it's a different, I don't know, it's hard to say. It's a different challenge.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, because you guys have so many different sides of your business, and there is a physical side to it, and then there's also the sales side to it, the marketing side. So depending on the market you're in, I mean, you could have, I guess, a lot of contracts, but then you have to be able to service those. And then you have the opposite where sometimes it's more difficult to get contracts and you guys don't have so much of the physical. Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, in any market, you guys are working, it sounds like, in down markets or up markets, you have your...
Yes. And that's the one thing I'll say about an industry like the cleaning industry is, and that's one of the things that kind of drew us to the industry from the beginning, was the fact that regardless of what's happening in the economy and the market, there will always be dirty buildings, right? There will always be buildings that need to be cleaned, or businesses that downsize, businesses that are doing so well that they've got to find bigger buildings, and so they've got to move out. And so, yeah, it's it is what it is. It's a pretty safe industry to go into.
Definitely, yeah, and that's why we like real estate. It's recession proof. People need to live in houses.
Yes.
And people need clean houses.
Yep. And then right now, you guys are realizing that there's not enough. There's not enough, doors to sustain the population, or affordable doors.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, any industry like that it's beautiful, because you're going to have your any industry, you're going to have your ups and downs. But as much as you can kind of eliminate those ups and downs or make them not as variable, I guess, yeah, the more consistent of a business you'll have, and easier you'll have just maneuvering through it. Because I mean, as much in real estate, you see it, we have our ups and downs. People still need houses and
absolutely. And I think the thing that is hurting the industry right now for the real estate is interest rates. I would say, where you're not buying as not a lot of buyers these days compared to when interests were, below. I know there were interests that were below 2%, which is crazy to me that, interests were so low, and then now they're creeping back up again. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Fed.
Yeah, you've seen the whole cycle of it. So do you guys make cold calls for your contracts, or how do you guys go about doing that? Because we do a lot of calling to get our contracts for houses. Is that how you guys do the same marketing method, or you guys have other methods?
I would say we probably have a good blend of trying different things to see what works. So we try networking, rec events, several chambers, and I mean, the whole networking thing was extremely difficult, as you can imagine, during COVID, right? No one was leaving their house. And so, and then on the other side, buildings, some didn't need as much cleaning as others. So the frequency went down, but we kind of made that up because the ones that were essential businesses that had to go to work, like manufacturing, trucking companies, those actually stepped up their cleaning and all their cleaning protocols. So that was kind of a nice change to see as well. But yeah, that's definitely, we've seen different aspects within the cleaning industry doing different things depending on what's going on in the market. No, so for sure, it was definitely a different time. I don't think anybody could have planned anything like this.
Nah, nobody was ready for it, and I think you guys are probably the prime industry it affected. But I mean, to kind of what we were just talking about, it shows right there. I mean, as you were saying, like one industry or some people don't need the clean, but then some people step it up, so it just weighs itself back out again. That's crazy. So what are like the major changes you had to make in your business during the COVID time? Because I mean, like I said, I'm sure number one affected industry in the whole during the COVID time.
Yeah, there was so much innovation that came out of what happened during the pandemic. That I feel like there's never been more innovation in our industry than what happened in 2020 and 2021. Cleaning is one of, if not the oldest forms of business out there, right? Pretty basic. Even when they had, huts and caves and whatnot, they still created a need to have things organized and things clean. And so, yeah, it was pretty different, a pretty different time. It required us, I think, to research things and, number one, see how we can best help our customers, because everybody was going through this. We were going through this in our office. Our customers were going through it in their offices, whether it was a dance studio, manufacturing, multi-story building. Everybody was going through it. The multi-story buildings were going through it from their renters' perspective, their tenants, right? Their tenants needed to make sure that their employees were safe. And so it just caused us to go into help mode and start researching what this is, what it's doing, talk to my peers in the industry, which was super helpful. A lot of them were in the same boat as us. And so we kind of rallied around how do we teach each other? How do we help each other to help serve our communities, whether it was a cleaning company in New York, whether, us in the Central Texas area or someone in Washington. What is this best practice going to look like? And so having a network of peers that everyone that was researching the same information and kind of just sharing it in real time with the other members was extremely helpful. And that gave us confidence to be able to say, okay, let's meet this thing head on. Let's get in front of it. Let's talk to our customers. And just by calling them, hey, what's going on in your business? Are you okay? Here's what we're seeing. Here's what we think. And so then just being available, even if they didn't need the cleaning, even if they shut down. We had some customers that, probably a handful or so, that shut down. There were some that shut down indefinitely. So for those, it's truly sad to see, but I feel okay because we were working with them to see what else we can do to help them out.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you were really hands-on, it sounds like, at the time, and having to really make sure you're nurturing every single one of your clients, making sure they're getting taken care of to the highest of the degree. So that way you're kind of, I'm sure there was a lot of cleaning companies trying to pop up during that time too. So making sure that you're still at the front of your competition and you're the most well-known and for that industry. Because, I mean, did you guys see a lot of people trying to compete with you and trying to pop up and during that time and trying to make a name for themselves?
We didn't see a lot of that. Not like you would expect from, when there's a hailstorm in the city, right? You get all the competition that comes in and all of a sudden everybody's in the hail damage repair. We didn't see a lot of that with the cleaning industry. I think either they were afraid, or it was too new, or they didn't feel like they could ramp up, or everybody was just, scared and they just want to be at home with their loved ones, which is understandable too. We didn't see a lot of new businesses that were getting established during that time.
Okay. Yeah, I asked because it seems like everybody and their mom made masks at that time, so it seemed like anything to do with like something to keep you safe or sanitary, it was like somebody was trying to get into. But that's good to see that people are kind of at least staying in their niche, because at that time I could see a lot of people trying to get into the business, but that's when we needed real actual cleaners that could take and keep things real sanitary, because there was a virus going around at the time. How did you go about protecting you and your employees? Because did you have employees at the time that were scared to work and trying to keep your staff on board?
Yeah, we had, I'm trying to think of the employees. We did have some employees that came down with COVID, and so it was trying to follow guidelines, whether they needed to be home. I think at that time it was 2 weeks, and then later it went down to 1 week where they had to quarantine. So what we did was we researched it, and a lot of cleaning companies were in the market looking for masks, believe it or not. A lot of us just don't have that kinds of PPE lying around to where we need it. Gloves, yes, that's our typical cleaning supply. But even the gloves, we only carry so many, right? We only carry enough to do our work for the month, but not a surplus of like what we were needing and what the population was going through at that time. So it was just, again, a matter of relying on our peer groups, relying on cleaning companies in other states. If I remember somebody had, extra, those suits that we were using during that time. So someone would say, hey, I have an extra 10 cases. Okay, sell them to me. And so it was really neat to be able to pipe into something like that and chime into something like that to where you had the resources if you couldn't find it in our local communities. I know that a lot of the vendors here in town were out of those supplies, and so we had to rely on other sources to go get that stuff, get those supplies, get that equipment that we needed. So yeah, we armed ourselves with masks, gloves, the suits, anything that we can think of. We researched what the protocol was and what the application needed to be, and investing in the equipment as well. So all of that was what we would require to do our work. As far as training, set messages. Of course, we couldn't meet in person, right? So the great thing about using systems that we have is that you can do it virtually, just like you and I are doing now. So we could have meetings with our employees where you can send them a message through our app that we use, and they could see, okay, here's what we do. It also helped to have a specific team of technicians that were kind of our COVID team, for lack of a better word. They were the ones that were skilled in that. They were the ones that we were experienced, that we could send out depending on what the size job was.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, so you guys took like the necessary precautions and everything. It seems like you prepared your team well, so that's why you didn't have a lot of fall off. But I was thinking, maybe people in that industry or realm, maybe they're a little bit more prepared for it. But if it was me, I'd be like, maybe I'm staying away. I got to go get another job for the time being.
Absolutely.
Okay. But you really utilized your networks. It sounds like your community really came together, and it sounds like if there's any silver lining in it, it really developed some sort of community within your guys' industry there. And again, and some of the innovations that you guys had, if anything, you love to continue to innovate. So if anything pushes any industry to innovate, it's can be a good thing and have some sort of silver lining there.
Yeah, you would think an industry that is as old as ours is, that there wouldn't be much innovation, but as I said, in the last 3 years, I think there's been more innovation than in the entire history of the cleaning industry. It's just a testament of how great this industry is, that we're able to rise to the levels where the community needs us, where the population needs us to keep everyone safe.
Definitely. You have any specific examples of like the innovations that you guys have been putting in place? Maybe there are things that could be implemented in other industries?
Yeah, so there's different industries that require different, what we call cleaning programs, where they don't need the same protocol as, say, another industry. Medical buildings, for example, right? Those are sometimes some of the most difficult buildings to clean because of the traffic, the number of patients they see through there. So everything down, if you think about hospitals too, right? Hospitals are kind of an extension of cleaning when you think about how sanitary they have to be. And so, the types of chemicals that are used in hospitals and medical buildings, we have to almost custom tailor a cleaning program by industry depending on the type of industry that we're serving. So as far as the innovation, again, we did the research that everybody was doing that was a cleaning owner back then. And so we invested in the electrostatic machines, right, that could spray things down. And the way they spray things down, they almost encapsulated what they were spraying, all right, as opposed to just simply wiping a surface down. So that was just one of the small innovations that we saw. I know that there's, that of course this industry keeps changing. Now there's, robots that can do some cleaning. And so it'll be really neat to see what happens over the next few years with our industry.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? You don't know where the things are going to go. It's like robots will cut your grass now and scrub your floors or whatever. You never know.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating to see a little machine go in there, and it's like, oh man. The first thing I saw, I don't know if you've been to a Walmart lately, but now they're using those autonomous vehicles that were the big, almost like Zambonis, kind of like if you think about the ice, when you're ice skating, those big machines that do the ice. Yeah. So now they have those similar ones they're called auto scrubbers. But so at Walmart, I saw one, and this was maybe 2 years ago, and it was a machine just going up and down the aisles and didn't have anybody manning the machine or anybody sitting in the seat. It was just an auto scrubber going up and down it. And then they've gotten programmed to where they notice that there's someone in front, and so they'll stop, and then they'll wait for you, and then they'll just keep, cleaning. So pretty neat to see that.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. I like to hear, though, that you're not, I guess, adverse to it. Some people in certain industries are adverse to the new technology coming. Are you open to it? Or you're like welcoming it, or you're a little nervous about it?
No, I'm not nervous about it. I think that I see where you're coming from. I think there are some that say, oh, they're going to replace us, or they're going to do the job cheaper, faster, better, and that thought doesn't really scare me. I think that there's always going to be a need for different industries that require a specialized type of cleaning. Clean rooms, it's a great example. Those clean rooms, they measure how dirty a clean room is in like milligrams, and so they've got this machine specialized that measures it. And so these parts that are being sent out for the technical industry, just a fraction of a 1% is enough for them to shut it down and go, nope, got to start all over. And so, but that doesn't scare me too much. If anything, it's the innovation behind the industry that excites me. They're starting to come out with like smart dispensers, paper towel dispensers, soap dispensers that have like a built-in alert system to where now we don't have to check it every day. Now it'll just, we'll send a message somewhere or an email somewhere and say, hey, fill me back up with soap, or put more paper towels in this. So that's kind of exciting to me to know that, okay, there's something else that will help us do our job better.
Yeah, I haven't even thought of that, but I can see how that would be a time-saving thing, because then you don't got to check every single one all the time. Get a notification to your phone, you're like, okay, I got to check whatever in this place, and then you don't have to go through and check them every single day or however long.
Yeah, and from a service standpoint, if you could sell that as a service to where, okay, now we know we are going to have a dedicated employee, and they're going to go out to this building, and all they're doing that day is filling, soap dispensers up. That I think there's some value that you can add there, some peace of mind, definitely. Yeah. Tenants that occupy the buildings, for the property managers that occupy the buildings.
Yeah, or we'll know when your soap or paper towels are out automatically. It's not like your customer has to let us know, and then you have to let us know. It's a whole game of telephone or whatever.
Right, and it helps in the experience from the tenant side or the customer side. You're creating a more positive experience for them, because it's super uncomfortable when you go up to wash your hands and there's no soap, and or worse, you're in the stall and it's out of toilet paper and you didn't think to check before you went in.
Exactly. So I guess, how do you stay up to date with all this? Because it seems like there's a lot coming out. There's a lot to stay up to date with, and it sounds like you got your finger on the pulse with what is expected to come.
Yeah.
Is there like a feed or?
Yeah, there's several groups. Of course, there's a lot of affiliations out there. There's also a lot of magazines, newsletters that come out. Facility Executive is one that I subscribe to, and they will touch base on those things. And I know some of those newsletters are geared more towards facility managers, but my thought is if I can learn some of that, then I can be more valuable to a facility manager, because I'll know what issues they have or what headaches they have, and it helps me understand them a little bit better. And if I can understand them a little bit better, I can certainly serve them better.
100%. Yeah, and that's half the battle a lot of people have. The more of understanding you have, or the more you know about something,
Right.
the better off you can be at teaching them or servicing it, whatever it may be. So I like that, is continuing to learn, and that's what a lot of people lack. And I mean, it's hard because sometimes you feel like, okay, I know it all. What's the next level? And sometimes it's hard to find the next level when you've experienced so much or been in the game so long. And it sounds like you've been doing this for quite some time. So I like to hear that you can continue to keep learning and you see the value in that. Is there other ways that you continue to find information or continue to gather information or continue to educate yourself in your industry?
Yeah, so we try to attend at least 2 cleaning type seminars a year, whether it's educational or it is a networking. If it's networking, the positives there are that you get to meet with other business owners and you kind of have the same challenges, or you get to share the same experience with, let's say, you're thinking about switching to a different cleaning product. Okay, well, now you have that kind of feedback from someone else in the industry who has tried it and knows, okay, yeah, I would recommend this, or no, I wouldn't because of these reasons, or here's the benefits, and here's, what it'll do long term, or can do within your business. So we try to attend 2 events. One to be more of an educational, either in the industry or how to run a business, or what things we can put in place to help continue the scaling.
Yeah, to be part of the community, it sounds like, either to get information or to give information and to be involved, which is an important thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you walk us through, I guess, a day-to-day for you? I guess now that you have all these employees and everything, and it sounds like, I don't know if you're going out and actually doing the cleans yourself, but what does a daily, I guess, routine look like for you now running your business and everything?
On a daily basis, it varies a little bit. So there's, come into the office, check on email, check to see if there's anything that needs to be addressed immediately, organize ourselves for projects for that week, that day, or that week. That's where my husband kind of comes in. He's the operations director. So make sure that everybody's got enough supplies for the jobs that we're going to do that week or that day. I usually have a couple of meetings in there somewhere, and for walking buildings or walking prospective buildings, or putting together bids for customers. What else? I mean, trying to strategize the company so that it's geared up for success. So trying to make sure that if we have roles that they're filled, to make sure that we're completing what we say we're going to do, or what we promised in the contract. So we spend quite a bit of time trying to figure out, okay, how can we do this better? Or maybe we had a mishap in one of our accounts, analyzing how could we have done that better? What tools are missing, either from our management side or from our frontline employees side? What do they need to be successful? How are we giving them that information? Do they know that they have the resources available to them if they don't have what they feel they need to do their jobs well?
Awesome. Yeah, so you guys spend a lot of time, it sounds like, crossing your T's, dotting your I's, making sure everybody's happy, making sure that your contracts are set up in order, so that way when you do service those people, it's all in line beforehand. And do you guys rewalk the properties after you clean them to make sure your people did a good job, or you mean just walking the properties before you get a contract in place?
Right. So we walk them. I would say like before, during, after. We have a plan to where we have unannounced inspections. And so those are really great. So we'll know ahead of time. If today's Monday, let's say we know we'll schedule all of our Monday assignments, and then it's just a matter of getting our supervisors to get out there, kind of walk the space and look it over and see if there's anything that either we need more training on, or maybe something popped up that we don't normally do and that could potentially pose a problem. And so my favorite word around here is proactiveness. And that is just trying to stay in front with the communication with the customer, with communication with the employees, so that we prevent any other issues or mistakes or headaches from popping up down the road.
Okay. So what makes this industry so difficult? Would you say there's one thing that makes this industry so difficult? I don't know that I could I don't know that I can nail it down to one specific thing. It's a little bit of everything that makes it challenging, right? It is finding employees that truly enjoy this type of work. And it's not for everyone, and that's fine. That's perfectly okay. Finding those employees that love, if you ask me, I love before and after pictures of, you've all seen those videos where pressure washing, for example. It's such a good feeling to see a building or see a sidewalk where it was, kind of moldy and black before, and then it gets pressure washed, and now it looks almost brand new. That is, I don't know about you, but that's such a gratifying feeling. It's such a good feeling to see something what something used to look like, and then seeing a change. So I would say, identifying the right staff that enjoys stuff like that. I enjoy it, right? Because I'm one of the owners, so I've got to have a love for that type of work. That's one of the challenges. Another challenge is finding customers, finding clients that are in line with the values that we have, that are a good fit for us, whether it's the time of day that we clean, the time of night, or overnight if that's what's required. Looking for those specific types of fits for us. And then I would say the challenge of, I'm trying to think of what else. I think that's it. It's at the end of the day, it is wanting to have a team where, in an ideal world, everybody loves what they do and they come to work and they're happy, right? The old saying of, find something that you love doing, because if you love doing what you do, then it won't ever feel like a job. And so my job is to find those employees, and I feel like we've got a pretty good program to help us find and identify who those are that truly love their job, that want to come and see a difference in the work that they do day in and day out. Yeah, it sounds like you have an awesome company culture around there. Is there something you've done to develop, good team camaraderie, good culture and everything around you, where it sounds like everybody's ready to work for each other and, help each other out, have each other's backs type deal?
I think that just helping to promote our values has helped out quite a bit. We're trying to adopt this kind of mentality of adding value, adding experience to our cleaning process, adding something other than the cleaning, right? The cleaning, depending on who you ask, right? It's either very complicated or it's pretty simple, right? It's one of the oldest industries. It's pretty simple, but yet there's still a science to it, right? If you don't believe me, just start mixing chemicals and then you'll start getting fumes, right? So it can be pretty hard, a pretty hard task, but I don't know. One of our values is having owners mindset. And so for us, what that means in the cleaning industry is that, 8 to 5, the building might be open, but after everybody leaves, all the employees or all the doctors or all the tenants that occupy that space, if we come in essentially at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whatever time that is, that's our building. It belongs to us, right? It may not have express commercial cleaning on the outside, but it's our building. What we mean by that is we are in control of that building after hours. And so our employees get to see who comes in after hours. They can monitor who's in the parking lot or who started cleaning the parking lot. Maybe there's a potential threat. And so looking at things on the inside too of the building, like the faucets not working or lights are out or wherever the case may be, reporting those kinds of things from an owner's standpoint adds such a value to the relationship and such an experience to the occupants of that building that we try to train for that. We try to say, hey, let's treat this building, pretend this is your building, right? If you own the building, what would you want to know? Well, you would want to know if the lights are out. You would want to know if, somebody around the back vandalized it and put graffiti all over the back. So those kinds of things, we try to train for to, hey, just while you're working, take a picture of it, load it up in our app, and let's notify the owners or the managers of that property that Express is not here just to do the cleaning. We're here looking after the building as if it were our own.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so you guys have that extra edge that a lot of cleaning companies, I think, would overlook, because a lot of cleaning companies look at it like they're just a cleaning company. They're not the maintenance crew or whatever. But, I mean, it doesn't take that much effort or time, like you were kind of saying. You just take a picture and upload it, and it can add that much value on the other side. You guys are almost like a management company at that point, because you're just like watching over the property.
Right, and it's something we haven't had any issues where there's something that came up at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and the employees were there, and they noticed it. We were able to send a message. Then the manager or the building owner gets there in the morning. That's the first thing they see. And so it's that, or if it's worse, it's an emergency, right? Then they'll get a call from us at midnight like, hey, you should know this is what's going on in your building. And we felt it was such an urgent notice that we needed to call you. And so for the most part, they're always like, they're super thankful that we went out of the way, especially if it's an emergency item like, a flood or, something's going on, or we smell smoke somewhere in the building, or gas even. We know we're keeping them safe. We had an interesting example of this recently. Actually, one of our employees took a picture of the tag on the fire extinguisher. And I don't know if you know, but those fire extinguishers, they have dates on there. And so every year the fire extinguishers have to be inspected, right? And so it turns out for this particular customer, they had I don't remember how many they had, but they had several. Not only was the tag expired, but then after a certain point, those fire extinguishers, they can't be re-inspected or refilled. I'm not sure what the process is, but essentially they were too old to reuse, and so they required new ones. If you think about it, at this type of location that has it has children in the building, this is a way to keep them safe. This is something that we're doing that I think I told our employees the other day, we're not just cleaning, we are literally saving lives, because if those went overlooked and maybe they don't have the facility manager at that building, who is looking at those? Right. And so I felt super proud, number one. And then number two, knowing that those were not just expired, but they were expired to the point where they can't even be inspected and reused.
Yeah, they've been overlooked for such a long period of time. You guys obviously are doing something different that a lot of companies aren't, paying attention to detail, where I don't know how long you've been cleaning this building for, but obviously they had prior people doing it before you that overlooked it. It's just that a little attention to detail. One, like you said, kids are in there, there's a fire, that's a life-saving device. It's went way beyond that. That's incredible. And yeah, I'm sure there's other occurrences like that where it's just like, same thing, if people don't pay attention to detail. And I mean, maybe it was a smoke detector, you guys realized it was down or something of that nature, and same type of thing.
For sure.
That's crazy. So I guess let's end it off with this. I mean, what advice would you give to, I guess, an aspiring entrepreneur trying to get into either the commercial industry or just starting out their own business in general? Is there one tip that you did yourself that you would give to somebody to help trying to jumpstart their journey?
I would say, gosh, it's hard. That is a tough question because of all the things that you feel you've done right, how do I pick just one? It's a hard question. I would say one of the ways we've been super successful is in just following up. If they tell you no, remember, it's not a no forever, right? It's a no, not right now, or it's a, hey, we're just not a good fit right now for whatever reason, right? It doesn't even matter what the reason is, but if you follow up with them and you come back, you're at least in their, in their little atmosphere bubble, right? So I feel like they're at least the door's been open this much, and it's your job to, over time and with those follow-ups and those connection points, to keep opening that door wider and wider, so that way then you'll be able to get your foot through there.
I'm so happy you said that, because that's what we preach. Follow. That's the name of our game. You can't win on the first touch, maybe the 10th or the 20th, but I mean, at some point, they're going to be selling our property.
You're not going to ignore it. They'll answer one day.
Exactly. I love that. So that goes for any industry, not just real estate, not just cleaning, any industry where you're doing sales, marketing, it's all on the follower. That's it. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you hopping on and giving a bunch of good information to our viewers. I got a lot of good information out of it myself, so I definitely appreciate you taking the time to do it. I enjoyed talking to you this evening. It was awesome.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time and having me on here.